Situation in Irpin. You were there yesterday. Let's play out that report by Gaurav Sawant that shows you how and what the situation currently is in one of Kiev's suburbs.
Shelling at Russian positions, and this is 21st century urban warfare that you witness. Now, this is a built-up area. The plumes of smoke that you see on the horizon there, that is where Russian troops are deployed. And that is where Russians are regrouping according to Ukrainian army, and they are systematically being targeted. This is an active battle zone where India today is on ground zero. There is a gun position not far from here. There are also grads deployed here, those multi-barrel rocket launchers. Now, they are targeting the Russian strongholds. And if you notice a large plume of smoke, and not just one concentration, but multiple concentration, that is where this active firing is going on. The shelling is going on. That is where the Russians have regrouped to mount an operation against Ukraine. But the Ukrainian army isn't giving up without a fight. In fact, they're mounting swift counter-offensives to take on the Russian forces. What was said initially that the Russians are actually saying that they will reduce attacks on Kiev, but on ground that is not what is happening. On ground there has been intense shelling of localities around Kiev. Now there are pitched battles that were being fought both at Irpin and Bucha. We are on ground zero. All these houses are completely abandoned. A lot of houses also bear signs of destruction that has been witnessed in this area. But actively that area is being targeted. You can hear these artillery rounds. You can hear the shelling that's happening in the backdrop, and almost non-stop. There are attacks and there are counter-attacks, and the artillery pieces, they keep moving because there are also weapon locating radars. That's what we've been told. So artillery pieces, and they're in direct firing mode at the Russian positions. So they fire and then they move to another direction so that when the counter-attack comes, the artillery pieces have already moved by then. So this is the kind of warfare that's happening on ground on the outskirts of Kiev. We're barely 30 kilometers from Ukraine's capital Kiev, where this fighting is taking place. Day 35, day 36, if it was anticipated that there would be a reduction in shelling or firing or hostilities on ground, that clearly isn't the case. With cameraman Lalit Mohan Joshi in Irpin, on the outskirts of Kiev, Ukraine, Gaurav Sawant for India Today.
And let me take this back across to Gaurav Sawant, who's now in Kiev. Gaurav, that report of yours from Irpin is an eye-opener, because now anything that Russia says about, de-escalation or a peace pledge is going to be taken with a pinch of salt. This is why Ukraine has maintained that we're being very cautious with whatever Russia says. Till we see it actually reflecting on the ground in the form of complete de-escalation, they're simply not going to believe any assurance that Russia gives.
President Zelensky said so in as many words, Akshita. You're absolutely right. Ukraine's President Zelensky said they will not be taken in by attractive words, but they will wait for action on ground. So this morning, when information filters in about some Russian troops moving across the border back to Belarus, it is being seen as a hopeful sign just before the next round of talks in Turkey. But does that mean that they will de-escalate, considering, from the time that we filed that report till this morning, the indications are that things have been relatively peaceful. It's being monitored very closely. It's being monitored very effectively. Some of the later blasts were being attributed to landmines that were being neutralized, anti-personnel and anti-tank mines that were being diffused by Ukrainian forces. And this is what, when I'm talking about Irpin. When we talk about Kiev, Kiev has been relatively peaceful since last night. Is this an indication that Russians are saying, fine, let's have a conversation on the road ahead? But what becomes extremely crucial? What happens to the Donbass region? Because Ukraine is very clear they will not let go of Mariupol. They will not let go of that entire Donbass region. But do they also have the military might to take it back? All of this will become very critical tomorrow when the talks happen in Istanbul, Akshita.
The other thing is also about the optics involved for Russia, Gaurav. When we talk about de-escalation, some sort of progress in peace talks, there's no doubt that all along Russia is going to be thinking, what is the message we're sending across to the world? Because even as, we've seen some progress, and we're going to keep our fingers crossed about whether it's going to lead to some positive de-escalation, even as there's been some progress on that front, at the same same time, there have been news reports about how you had Russian bombers with nuclear warheads in the European Union airspace. Swedish media reports have suggested this happened earlier in the month. It's a clear message from Russia to the world, not just to Ukraine, that, they're not backing off in any way.
In fact, that's a very clear signal to the world, and especially North Atlantic Treaty Organization countries, not to get involved in this war. They want to handle it at the level of Ukraine versus Russia. And Russia has also said, as far as Ukraine is concerned, they do not require these nuclear weapons. But the brandishing of nuclear weapons, the repeated statements about nuclear weapons, the nuclear, and it's no longer being seen as a bogey. The nuclear threat is to warn the United Kingdom, it's to warn the United States, it's to warn other NATO countries not to actively get involved in this conflict or even think of declaring a no-fly zone, something that Ukraine's President Zelensky and the people here, every billboard across Kiev says NATO declare a no-fly zone, and clearly that isn't happening because NATO directly does not want to expand this war to other regions, because that would be catastrophic for this entire region. Right now it's a catastrophe for Ukraine, considering what's happening in Mariupol, considering what's happening in Irpin and Bucha, and there is massive devastation in this in that area, and we'll be reporting on that later today as we try and enter Irpin once again. The situation is very grim. Russia wants to ensure that others don't get involved in this, and it handles this war at a pace that Russia wants, whether it's the siege of Kiev, which apparently is now again being lifted. This is information we're getting from the Ukrainian army, that some of the strongholds where they were seeing Russian forces in the past couple of days, now those Russian forces are no longer being seen there. Now, is this some kind of a tactical retreat? Is this some kind of a regrouping of Russian forces? We still do not know, but they are maintaining this wait and watch. But more artillery pieces and grads and other longer range weapon systems are coming into Kiev, and that is an indication that as far as Ukraine is concerned, they're not taking the Russians at their face value. They'll only see what they do on ground when these peace talks happen tomorrow.
There's talk of Russian troops moving away from the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. There's talk of Russians moving back into Belarus. Let's hope that kind of de-escalation continues to happen on the ground. Gaurav, stay safe out there. We're going to keep coming across to you for all those very, very important updates coming in from Ukraine. As the attacks continue to ravage Ukrainian cities, India Today has been getting you ground reports from across this war-ravaged country. We've travelled from Mariupol now to Gorlovka, where the battle rages on. Parts of the city has been under Russian control as well. Geeta Mohan has been travelling through parts of eastern Ukraine to get you a first-hand account, to get you these world-exclusive reports from Ground Zero.
A city in ruins, out of food, out of water, out of electricity. India Today is in Gorlovka, a city near Donetsk Oblast in eastern Ukraine. The war trail has taken us from Donetsk to Mariupol to Gorlovka. India Today is the world's first television crew to reach deep inside the Russian-controlled territories of Ukraine.
The after effects of massive shelling here in Gorlovka. Shards of glasses now being removed by the residents. They're not leaving the city that has come under heavy shelling from the Ukrainian side. The windows broken, and now this lady over here, this old lady over here, is cleaning, tending to her garden. She's cleaning the glass, shards of glass, and what she says is that her flowers and her garden has been destroyed. A home, a garden that she maintains with much love, now absolutely destroyed, and so she's trying to retrieve whatever she can of the garden that is left, because they've just sown the seeds for the next season, and before the flowers can bloom, before the saplings can even be visible, there are glasses everywhere, shards of glass everywhere. Very sad sight, and you'll see this in the entire neighborhood here in most parts of Gorlovka that has come under heavy shelling.
Non-stop bombing might have destroyed much of the concrete, but the city's soul is intact. Elena Vladimir, residing in Gorlovka for years, says she will rebuild her home.
Все вычистили, цветов насажали. Ничего, вычистим, еще лучше насадим.
This woman says that in 15 there was shelling here. They bombed everything, but they rebuild it again. So they put the flowers here and make this territory pretty. And now again the shelling and everything destroyed. But she says, "Oh, it's not bad. We will just repair it again."
Hindi films
Bollywood is giving Elena good company and keeping her spirit high even in these times of war.
О, Джимми, Джимми, Ася, Индия, Радж Капур, люблю, не могу, всю жизнь люблю индийские фильмы. У меня столько дисков, Бобби есть, у меня много, да, Рам Шиам, Зита Гита.
Свет бывает, тоже если сильный обстрел.
This is Olha's house. She does not want to show her face because she has relatives in Ukraine as well. So it could be a security issue for her family members on the other side. But she's here. This is her house, which was destroyed. You're seeing new bricks because they're rebuilding. That's how resilient this town has been of Gorlovka, because they've been suffering this for a while. Olha over here will explain what happened. Olha, what happened to your house?
Что произошло с вашим домом?
15 июня 2015 года производился обстрел. Было 2 прилета именно по улице Шашурина, дом 15. И был прилет в 1-й этаж, фундамент этого дома, и рядом стояк, 4-й этаж, просто насквозь.
So it was 2 hits in the 15th year, and one of the hit was hit this house, and her flat was ruined. Door was out, and it was impossible to live here after that shell.
Right. Impossible to live out here. This is the house that is being rebuilt, and just if Satya goes to the window, beyond this point is where the Ukrainians are holding fort. So every time there is attack or a fierce battle between the Ukrainian side and the Donetsk or the Russian side, this town of Gorlovka is the first town to fall victim, and this building, this neighborhood is the one that suffers the most. I'll take you outside to show exactly how the situation is outside also. If you come out over here, the buildings are absolutely dilapidated because they have been suffering this kind of shelling since 2014. And while the people still continue to live, right now, because the situation is so bad, the neighborhood is almost empty. There are older people, some younger lot who are still here, but playground over there, absolutely abandoned. Children do not come out. Some of them do come out if they're here and play amid the sounds of explosions, of shelling. So these are unreal times for people of Gorlovka, but also an entire community over here that has been witnessing the fiercest battle between Ukraine and Russia, between Ukraine and Donbass.
Work Notorotske is where Russian control ends. 1 kilometer from here, Ukrainians are holding fort.
This is Verkhney-Troyevska, where the Russians have taken control. This was Ukrainian territory, but now this has come under Russian control. The village over there absolutely destroyed because of the continuous shelling from both sides. Villagers have fled. Some of them continue to stay here, but most of them have fled. That's continuous shelling going on. And where we are right now is where the injured are being brought to the Russian camp. Camouflaged nets. You can see that to ensure that that this little house that they've taken up is not destroyed. Now we're going in to show you exactly what. They're medics, they're military medics, medical team of the Russian military force, and they have an emergency operation or a operation theatre where they are performing whatever rudimentary surgeries or procedures that can be performed. This is also the first aid center where first aid is provided to those who are injured in the attacks. And the ones who really require major medical help are taken by the medical vans to Gorlovka. Alex, if I could speak to the officers here as to what the situation is and when did they take control of this village?
Скажите, когда мы получили контроль над этим поселком?
Окончательный контроль над этим поселком я не могу вам ответить. Мы сюда зашли 4 дня назад. Именно медицина. Естественно, вы понимаете, что медики заходят тогда, когда фронт продлевается хотя бы на 6 километров вперед.
So they got here 4 days ago, and this is a medical group. So they standing behind the forward forces.
The post. This was under Ukrainian control. Now the Russians have taken control of this area, and it seems like the villages over there are absolutely destroyed, but people not willing to leave.
As Russian forces press ahead, it is meeting resistance from the Ukrainians. The theater of war has shifted from Kiev to eastern Ukraine.
This is the last post where the Russians now have taken control. This was on the Ukrainian side, Verkhovna, where the Ukrainians had control. Now it is absolutely under Russian control. The village absolutely destroyed. We're being told there are only 30 civilians who are still there over here. Most of them old who do not want to leave, but only 30. The rest have fled to safety either on that side or this side. Shelling ongoing from both sides, trying to regain control when it comes to the Ukrainian sides, trying to keep control when it comes to the Russian sides. Mortar shelling visible in all houses that are absolutely destroyed. There was a mortar shell that fell on this house as well, where we are standing right now. But it seems like this is going to continue because this is the last position for the Russian side, a critical one at that.
In areas where Russian forces have taken control, it has confiscated machine guns and ammunition from the defeated Ukrainians.
This is one of the homes where the Ukrainian forces had placed their machine gun. You can see the remnants, the pellets over here, and the action here on the door. So there are a few homes over here which were being used by the Ukrainian forces to base themselves out of, and the action against Russian forces were being carried out from these very places. So some of the homes over here had a huge stash of ammo, and that ammunition has been confiscated by the Russian side while the Ukrainian forces withdrew and went back to the positions that they're in now.
A lot has been said about the Ukrainian love for their motherland and their resolve. The same holds true for the Russian troops. India today met a soldier couple in the war zone. They have left their 5-year-old baby at home to fight what many are calling Vladimir Putin's war.
On the front lines, fighting with the forces to take as much territory as they can. They're ensuring a DPR Russia win, and we'll have to wait and see how the Ukrainians react. There are young couples, young forces, young women fighting the forces on the other side as well. But this is a young couple fighting from this side. Tanks moving to the front line over here. We've seen this continuous action, continuous movement of tanks that have been moving from Gorlovka and other areas up to the front line. This village now has been taken and is under Russian control. Those are Russian military personnel and forces who are now moving to the front as and when they require more ammunition, more backup, more support. You'd see this road being used to go up to the front.
Russia is sending reinforcements, including T-64 tanks, to the region. Moscow is determined to hold on to their hand-won gains in the last few days.
We are right at the border areas. Now the forces over here, Russian forces, preparing to go to the front. You can see that they are arming the tanks with the ammunition, the weapons that are required. And over there are two more tanks. This is a T-64, and they're readying themselves. They soon will be going to the front. You see all of them. They were taking a break, and now the forces over here moving ahead. There you can see they're all going. They're all going to the front line. This is an area in Golvanaka. We are again being told not to disclose locations, so can't show the buildings around. Satya is keeping it very specific to the tanks that are here and will be in motion very soon. They are going to go to the villages that have been captured where we were reporting from. The commander who's commanding this convoy of tanks, Sergeant Ilya. Sergeant Ilya, thank you for speaking with India Today and Aaj Tak. Where are you headed? We see you're preparing. Where are you headed right now? Don't want details, but just about the fact that the border areas that they're trying to capture.
Не нужны детали, но скажите, куда вы направляетесь, то есть какие у вас примерно задачи стоят, то, что можно сказать.
Задачи стоят на Новобахмутовку, отбить сейчас, как бы вернуть ее нам, то, что нам положено, и нашу территорию.
So they going to Novobakhmutovka village, which is in the territory of Donetsk People's Republic. It must be so. So they're gathering to take it back now.
What are the challenges that they're facing as forces? Are there any challenges that they're facing?
Какими проблемами вы встречаетесь как подразделение?
Проблемы со стороны Украины?
Ну вообще, то есть какие у вас?
Operational challenges.
Да, технические какие трудности, то есть как это?
Технические трудности, да, в принципе никаких, только машинки старые, уже уставшие. Приходится их самим заниматься, их там подкручивать, там всякие патрубки, со временем уже стали протираться и так далее, то есть.
So the only problem they meet is the old technique, and they need to repair it seldom.
Because these are the T-64s and not the T-90s, which are the latest tanks of the Russian forces.
Да, это Т-64, не Т-90, которые...
Ну, конечно, это 64-ки, которым уже лет 50 им точно.
So at least these tanks are 50 years old.
They're 50 years old, but why do you think Russia thinks it's okay for a T-64 to fight Ukrainians? Do you think they do not require more power to fight the Ukrainians? Is this enough?
Вопрос такой, хватает ли Т-64 для украинцев? То есть, может, нужна техника лучше или достаточно этой?
Ну, пока мы справляемся с этой, у нас есть 64-ки, 72-ки, у нас, в принципе, вот в батальоне 40 танков, поэтому мы потихоньку справляемся с этой проблемой.
So they have 72, T-72 and T-64, so this is enough for them, as he says.
That's Sergeant Ilya saying that it's enough for them. They're going to go to the front line and ensure that the areas that are a part of Donetsk remain with Donetsk, and the Russian forces over here are going to ensure that they maintain control of the region and of the area. I'm atop a T-64 Russian tank, and they are now preparing to roll in to the border areas, the front line. The preparation is on. The weapons are being placed, ammunition being placed inside the tank. They were taking a break, but now they're preparing themselves to go to where we're coming from. The last village that now is under Russian control. Ukrainian forces have been pushed back, and they require all the support, all the backup that's required, and therefore these tanks soon are going to go rolling into those villages. Atop a T-64. With video journalist Satya Rautre, Geeta Mohan for India Today.
And let's get you more exclusive ground reports by Geeta Mohan. 36 days of this war, both countries obviously have seen heavy damages to their weaponry. Geeta found Russian tanks that were damaged by the Ukrainian army that were also being quickly repaired so they can be sent out again and deployed in parts of Ukraine.
Amid massive shelling and bombardments over here, we found this tank, a Russian tank that was hit by the Ukrainian side. We are in one of the undisclosed locations where these tanks are being brought in. They will be repaired, is what officials and officers over here are saying, and then sent back to the front. So massive damage being caused by both sides, the Ukrainian forces as also the Russian side, when it comes to the war that is underway between Russia and Ukraine. One such tank over here, but there are many that come for repair over here, and then once repaired, they send back to the front line. With video journalist Satya Rautre, on the way to Gorlovka, Geeta Mohan for India Today.
So Geeta's been filing these reports for us from Gorlovka. It's a neighborhood in this area that's right at the epicenter of a fierce battle between the two countries. Geeta on Ground Zero also gets us an explainer with a local navigator to understand where exactly this battle is poised.
The last neighborhood in Gorlovka, a kilometer away, is where the Ukrainian forces are. Sasha, our military contact, is going to explain. Sasha, tell us, where do the Ukrainians stand?
Ukrainian flag up, now Ukrainian flag down.
Okay. That hill?
That hill, Ukraine.
Okay. That hill that you see? If Satya can zoom in, that's the hill. So this entire neighborhood and Gorlovka is in their line of sight, in the line of sight of the Ukrainian forces. And both sides are having a fierce fight. In many parts, you can hear explosions in many parts, but this neighborhood has suffered the most. All the buildings over here with shattered windows, and only a few people remain. But they still live here. They still remain here because this is a stronghold, has not been breached by the Ukrainian side since 2014-2015. And that's the reason why they still feel that they're safe to stay here. How safe, how protected? We know that they have two layers of windows everywhere. So if at all there's shelling, then one window breaks and the other, the one inside, does not. So they know when to leave their homes for safety or to safety. With video journalist Satya Rautre in Gorlovka, Geeta Mohan for India Today.
Largely, the border towns of Donetsk are peaceful despite sporadic attacks during this war. The towns also continue to be economically stable. Most people in the region are of Russian origin. We spoke to an Iraqi national who's living in this border town, who said that the Ukrainian army has been hostile in the entire region, but it is relatively safer.
How long have you been here?
Как долго вы здесь находитесь?
11 лет.
11 years.
11 years. Where are you from?
Ирак.
From Iraq. Okay. What do you make of the problems over here?
Какие проблемы у вас есть здесь? Какие вы видите проблемы?
Ну, имеется в виду, какие проблемы?
What do you mean?
The conflict between Ukraine and Russia and the fact that this is a border town.
Конфликт между Украиной и Россией и факт того, что мы здесь на передовой фактически.
Ну, вообще конфликт, если говорить честно, конфликт начала его Украина. Я здесь в 2014 году был, видел, как зашли войска, как начало все обстрел, как это, и они сделали этот конфликт изначала.
So, if to be honest, he said that all started from Ukrainian forces. In 14th, he was here and he saw that how Ukrainians came here with their army and start attacks.
It's very interesting. He's from Iraq. Saif is from Iraq, that has seen conflict, that has seen war. Saif, you have not gone back home. Do you feel safer here than in Iraq?
Да.
Yeah? This is safer?
Мне уже здесь мой дом, работа, жена. Уже возвращаться назад. Уже мой дом здесь.
Ну, где безопаснее, по-вашему?
Здесь.
So he said here is more safe, and he counts it's his house now, his place, his his hood.
His home, his homeland. He's chosen this area of the Donbass region to Iraq. This is an Iraqi man, Saif, now stuck between Ukraine and Russia in the Donbass region, saying that this is his new homeland because Iraq is certainly not safer than here. We are in one of the border towns called Mavlenka, which is not very far away from where from the forward posts. But As you can see, this is the northern part of Donetsk, and life is normal over here despite the fact that they also hear shellings and explosions. Why? It is because since 2014-2015, they have been experiencing this kind of conflict, and life has not stopped for them. Donetsk and especially these border areas are very rich when it comes to the kind of industries that are in place over here. Steel companies, pharmaceuticals, chemical factories, and that's why economically they're well to do. And because they've always been in the conflict area, life has not come to a standstill. 2014 referendum was held even in this area, where according to the Minsk agreement there needed to be implementation of the agreement, and more autonomy was to be provided to the Donbass region, Donetsk included, which was not honored by the Ukrainian side. Ukraine says there were problems because Russian forces were here and they could not honor the agreement, but it was after the Minsk agreement and the clause that were put in that the Kiev administration passed a legislation banning Russian language. Most of the people over here are Russian speakers or of Russian origin, and that's the reason why when you have groundswell support for an administration, it is very difficult for the other to hold on to that region. Because they are Russian speakers and pro-Russians and have a tilt towards Russia, it has been very difficult for Ukraine to take control or keep control in the Donbass region. With video journalist Satya Rautre, Geeta Mohan for India Today.